Welcome back to the second episode of Get Along Fine. This audio miniseries is part travelogue, part crime story, and part allegory. But an allegory of what? We'll just keep listening. And like Ben and Flannery, we're all going to get along fine. Get Along Fine, Episode 2. The engine rumbled big into the earth, and it seemed to grow louder and louder still as they escaped out the south end of Colorado Springs and the shadows took what was left of the ground and then the sky. Now the traffic thinned, and the commuter cars were replaced by long-haul semis, and Flannery watched each passing vehicle hard as a mean little child might watch sparks fly off a campfire. But none were ever any more than they at first seemed to be, and soon the only sounds they heard through the wide-open windows were their sounds alone, their coughing motor, their bald tires rubbing a highway that just kept getting ruddier as 7 o'clock neared 8, and they reached Pueblo. And the mountains began to get smaller, and farther away, or maybe the south is older than the north, and whatever mountains there once were had been ground down by time. The evergreens grew shorter, and then there were no trees at all. Western deserts got nothing romantic like sand or glamorous like pyramids. They're all sharp rocks and hardened clay, skittering with beetles and spiders. And there wasn't nothing the sun had revealed to Flannery and Ben the moon wouldn't show them just as well. 9 o'clock now, and the stars overhead and a wind had whipped up loud all around them. It had been 10 minutes since they'd seen another traveler, but now they came upon a car, stalled out on the shoulder near the intersection of I-25 and nowhere. It was a nice car, painted a fiery red, real hard to miss out here all alone, and the driver looked to be a woman of whom all the same things could be said. She leaned against the side of her ride and watched, arms folded, as Ben passed and then slowed and then pulled the truck onto the shoulder, maybe 50 yards up ahead. He put it in park and tapped the fuel gauge. What do you think? Flannery watched not the woman but the world. The scrub was sparse and the runoff ditch was dry, and he didn't see anywhere a shakedown crew could be hiding out, waiting for some dumbass do-gooder to come along. He nodded. Let's try it. Ben three-pointed without leaving the shoulder and idled up to the red car. 20 feet away, he banged the brights. The woman threw a hand up to shield her eyes, but it was too late, and when she lowered that hand and squinted into that light, she saw nothing but Ben's silhouette and the shadow he cast. Flannery got out too, but silent and low, and gun drawn, and he crawled around the back of the truck to crouch between it and the western shoulder. He heard the woman come off her car and take a step towards Ben, her sweet voice all the louder for traveling across such flat land. "Hey, thanks for stopping. My tire blew out on me." Ben replied, "Kinda strange, middle of September." "Yeah, I don't know why. Especially a new car like that." Now Flannery peeked up over the open door through the window. The wind had settled for a moment, but now it kicked up hard, come along for the sole purpose of pulling that red hair high into the low gray moon. It twisted like snakes twist, but everything else on the woman remained still and smooth, what skin the dress didn't hide reflecting white in the uncertain headlights of the pickup. Flannery blinked and let one lizard part of his brain beat back the other. He took his eyes off the woman, checked his six, allowed himself a long, slow scan of the shoulder, looking for anybody looking for him. Then he squatted low and eased his head all the way down till his ear was an inch from the gravel and he could see underneath the truck's driver's side door. The woman's tire was flat all right, but not shredded that Flannery could see, its rubber walls pluffing out evenly onto the gravel. "Yeah, I don't know," she was saying again. Ben said, "I tell you what, you let us suck a few gallons of your gasoline, we'll give you a ride to the next town. You can find yourself some help or a tow there." "Oh, could you just take a few minutes to help me change my tire?" Nah, I'm afraid not. She said, "You don't know how to change a tire?" And Ben said, "I don't know, I can take a few minutes." "Well, maybe you'd look at it at least." "Listen, you're gas for a ride. That's the only offer." 10 seconds of wind and dust, and Ben said, "Okay then." He took 2 steps backward, working his way to the truck. The woman's hand went into her purse, and Flannery came up over that door faster than a snake strikes, leveling the .38 past Ben's shoulder. In the night, he could whisper and trust the wind to carry his words. "Put it on the ground." The redhead pulled her hand out of her purse and held it high for him. "It's just a cell phone." "No, I never thought it was anything else." "What?" she said calmly, and Flannery replied, "Darlin', I'm beginning to believe this isn't the first time you've had a weapon pointed in your direction." The woman made a disgusted sound and put the cell down in the gravel, kicked it towards the truck without having to be asked. She crossed her arms while Ben scooted low and out of the line of fire and picked it up. Flannery waited till Ben had the truck spluttered up before he crawled in, keeping his revolver on the woman with the red hair and the crossed arms the whole way. "Flannery," Ben said as he U-turned back onto the highway, "I don't think I like this route as much anymore." It wasn't until they were up to cruising speed that Flannery tucked the .38 back in his lap and responded, "All right, what do you say we take 160 to Alamosa and then 285 down through Taos? Shorter as the crow flies, but probably an hour longer due to the passes and such, especially driving this old girl." He banged the steel door and then picked up the woman's phone from where Ben had set it on the dash. He flipped it out the window. The wind took it for a moment, and then it cracked heavy and exploded on the asphalt behind him. Ben was watching the rearview mirror, watching the little red dot become a black one and then disappear entirely. He agreed, 160 it is. I've ridden that pass in summertime. It's a beautiful stretch. "You know, Ben," Flannery said, "Ben, some say you should know the guys you pull jobs with. There are men won't even jaywalk with a crew they didn't meet in jail. Me, I believe about the opposite. The less I know about people, the better I seem to get along with them. But I tell you what, you want to talk about bikes? Well, we can do that all the way from here to New Mexico." And so they did, going west into the Rockies, telling stories about vintage bikes and dirt bikes, touring bikes and race bikes, and the sundry places their bikes had taken them. They paused to steal gas from a station so quiet they weren't even sure there was an attendant on property, and then didn't pull over again for near onto an hour, parking the truck in the gravel lot of a roadside bar neither had ever seen before. Ben went in and bought 2 burgers cash. He walked them back out to Flannery, and they perched in the bed of the truck, walled in by the mountains, lit by the moon, separated by Flannery's bike between them. And they went on talking about various bridges they'd crossed, and crawfish boils they'd attended, women they'd run with, and the bars they'd run to. Now Flannery shoved a last bite into his mouth, wadded the wrapper in his fist. "You want a roadie from inside?" he asked. "Nah, I'm good," till we drop the truck off where it's going. "You're sitting on a bottle of Jack anyway." "Oh, hell, I'd forgot about that." Flannery slid down the truck and around the passenger side, tugged open the door and pulled the bottle out. He swung it low and then tossed it as high as he could, up into the tops of the pines. The bottle spun once, twice, crested, and then fell, shattering on the packed earth, sending the liquor seeping into the ground. Ben barely flinched. "You don't like Jack?" "Nah, I like it fine. I just don't need it right this second. I only took it on general principle." Ben nodded. "What about you? You want a beer from inside?" "Nah, I'll go without as well. We should get in gear. Man doing a job ain't meant to be in one place this long." It's 3 hours from Alamosa to Albuquerque, but it can take 4 or more in an old pickup. It's all mountain driving, though sometimes the bottoms of the valleys are so long and wide you might as well tell yourself you're on the flat plains or on top of a high mesa. But as 10 became midnight, none of that mattered much to Flannery and Ben. The world was dark as can be. The pickup spluttered on the passes, but wouldn't die, and Flannery closed his eyes, and he didn't find sleep, but he did find a dream. It only lasted a few moments, and when it was done with, he sat up and thought deeply for a time. "Ben?" "Yeah?" I got a favor to ask of you. It's kind of a big one. Go on, ask. I wonder if you could pull this truck over so I might be able to take a look at it. A mile or more may have passed beneath their tires before Ben answered. We're not supposed to know what we're hauling here, Flannery. I assume you agreed to that, same as me. Scratch called me, said instead of hitching down to Albuquerque to get where my bike's stashed, he had another job for me. Pick you and the truck up at that Platte River spot and drive straight through the night to Albuquerque. I get a free ride to my bike and an extra $500 for my trouble. Questioning the cargo wasn't part of this deal. No, for me neither. I get it, and I'm hired to do a job. I do that job. But Ben, I'm asking. Ben glanced at Flannery's sidelong, and then he reached up and tapped the dome light and looked real hard into his eyes. You wouldn't be planning something here on me, would you now, Flannery? Flannery shook his head and then took off his hat so the light hit his face and Ben could see his eyes. I can see why you ask. I don't hold it against you. I tell you what, you keep the keys and both guns, it makes you feel better. I really want a flashlight and 10 minutes to take a peek at this truck. Ben didn't answer. He just flipped the dome light back off and angled the truck out onto the shoulder. They were halfway through one of the wide, long valleys that separate the ranges of the southern Rockies, the Sangre de Cristos to the east, the San Juans to the west. Down valley, a herd of cattle lumbered and lowed, and Flannery and Ben could only see how high the mountains rose because stars lined their ridges. But the herd and the mountains and the stars all vanished the second Flannery flicked his flashlight on, creating a new world, a little world with just one sun. Everything not illuminated by that spark might as well have been on another planet. Not being a car guy, Flannery didn't know exactly what to look for. He hopped in the bed and tucked at the stray edges of metal. He knocked the wheel wells, listening for a solid thunk where there should be only echoes. He lay down in the dirt, pushed himself under the engine, shone his light up into decades worth of old soot and antifreeze and oil drippings. He popped the hood and opened all the lids he could find, tapped to ensure the hollowness of things. And when he was done, he folded his arms and flipped off the flash and kicked at the greasewood and the rabbit brush until his eyes readjusted themselves to the darkness, and he could see again the shape of the herd mulling about down valley. It's just a truck, he said. Ben answered, well, maybe Scratch really likes it at all. He wants it back, just like I want my bike back. Ben, you sure you never asked Scratch why he felt he needed two men like us just to drive an old piece of shit truck a few hours to Albuquerque? Nope. I just said, meet you at Platte River. He said I'd know you, and I did. You done much work for Scratch? No, not much. Yeah, see, me neither. So here's where my head has been, and I know I don't got any right for my head to go anywhere at all, but here it is. If the truck ain't special, and there ain't no cargo in this truck special, the only thing left to be special about it is the fact there are two guys driving it. And I don't think I like the idea of you and me being special. So let me ask you, just how bad do you really want to deliver this truck? Well, I don't know I got cause not to do what I said I would, Flannery. Yeah, besides that. Ben kicked the dirt. Thing is, Scratch has got my bike down in Albuquerque, and that's special. That's special to me. I really need to get that back. Yeah, I can understand that, I guess. But I suspect getting it back is going to put us in a little bit of peril. Ben was unmoved, and Flannery saw that. He wiped his mouth and said, all right, well then, Ben, here's what I think we should do. They talked for a while, and then angled the 2x6 down off the bed, and Flannery rolled his bike out onto the shoulder, and that's how they drove at 1 and 2 a.m., Ben in the truck, one hand on the wheel, and the other holding the shotgun in his lap. Flannery riding around him, now behind, now in front, speeding ahead to check the underpasses, dropping back when headlights appeared in their rearview mirrors. And all the way the wind greeted them, and the moon and the night too. The valleys flattened, the soil became dust, but the asphalt was their friend, and it made them free.